Welcome back to Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC. I'm Greg Rand, your host, and we're going to talk now about Finding Your Florida. Finding Your Florida is the name of a chapter in my book, my upcoming book, which lays out the 12 rules of real estate investing. See, I've spent my entire career working with some of the most successful professional real estate investors, some you've heard of, and many, many, many you've never heard of, who are quietly building wealth and securing their financial future far beyond what they'd be able to do in other forms of investment. And I've learned from them, and I've taught them, but I've mostly learned from them, and I'm sharing the secrets. Think of me as that magician who's willing to show you the tricks. You know, there's always that magician who's like going to show you the card trick. All the other magicians get mad at him. Magicians, that is, get mad at him. In this case, the investors aren't mad at me because the truth is nobody ever asks them what their secrets are. They don't generally share them locally against their competitors, but they have a feel, they have a vibe, and they do things based on instinct and experience. And what we've done here is try to reverse engineer their instinct and their experience so we can share it with the independent investor, the small investor, so that you can glean some of the benefit of their years and years of experience and the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars of wealth that they've built. So this part of the show, we're going to talk about kind of a dress rehearsal of you going out there and beginning to scratch the surface and do research on your investment, because I'm telling you now that the big revival in real estate is coming next. We had the boom. We all remember that. Then we had the bust. We all remember that. We hear about that ad nauseum. Now we've got the bottom. Okay? In 2010, we're finding the bottom on home values. What happens after the bottom, right after the bottom, is the recovery and then the revival. So it's probably going to be 5 years away, which means it's great news. Number one, you know about it now. You're way in advance. Number two, you've got time to gather up your resources, gather up your down payment, make your plans, do your research. There's no jumping into this thing with both feet, with your eyes closed. You want to do your research and know what you're doing, and you found me. So you have everything working out for you right now. Find Your Florida is a metaphor for picking a winning market. Florida is widely regarded right now as one of the worst real estate markets in the country. Okay, everyone talks about the massive foreclosure volume down there, but what's happening in Florida right now is very explainable. During the real estate boom, there were a few markets in the country, Arizona, Southern California, Florida, and Nevada, but mainly Las Vegas, that were the hottest markets in the country. They were going gangbusters, right? But there was overdevelopment. There was too much development. Miami, at one point, I was down there. My brother Danny went to college in University of Miami. I was down there for his graduation, looked out my hotel window, and I saw 15 buildings in the skyline of downtown Miami, 15 buildings. Then I counted, and there were 23 cranes in downtown Miami. So the existing skyline before the boom was 15 buildings, and the skyline after the boom was going to be 15 plus 23 more. Now, the majority of those were condos, luxury condos, and today, you know that many of them were bought, the units were bought by speculators who planned on buying and flipping. They got loans for no money down by crazy banks who lost their minds. And then when they couldn't buy and flip for a profit to the next round of suckers, they just walked away, and you've got huge buildings in foreclosure. Florida is in a storm right now of foreclosure and devaluation, and it's horrible, and right, you never want to go and invest in a market like that. But why has Florida been such a good market for all the years up until the last couple of years? It's because of demographics. Demographics and climate, two things that haven't changed. Okay? You've got people in the population centers up north who are migrating to Florida as they retire. A couple of years ago, the baby boomers first hit retirement age. So 70-something million baby boomers, most of them in the northeast United States, who are going to migrate, and most of them are coming down the I-95 corridor to Florida, to the Carolinas, etc. That trend hasn't changed one bit. Nothing about that trend has changed. So the short-term pain of Florida is inherent in a market that has got long-term, phenomenal long-term prospects. So you can go down there right now, acquire property down there now. If you have a hold period of 10 years, 10 years from now, all this nonsense will be over. Okay, all the excess foreclosure inventory will burn off. It'll be acquired. The smart money is going out to Florida right now, but that's the strategy behind this is you find something that's got a short-term problem, but it's got good long-term prospects. So how do you go about doing that? I'll give you 3 pieces of advice of something that I'd like you to do to start thinking about either taking your first step into real estate investing or to adding to your existing real estate portfolio. And it starts with finding the market. Before you start messing around with picking a property, find a winning market. How do you do that? Well, chances are the place that you live is probably the place that you know the best. Okay? If you've been there for a long time, if you have kids, you're putting the kids through the schools. If you've gone through the schools, you know the schools better than anybody who can read about the schools on an internet screen, okay? You understand them because you've been through them. You know the vibe of the community. You know what's happening there. You got to go and put some tangible research behind that. What I would do is I would go and get my hands on the local business journal. Virtually every county that I'm aware of around the country has got a business journal. That's a publication whose job it is to report on the business goings on in the market. What will you find there? Well, you'll find, is Home Depot coming in or are they going out? Are they adding a second store? Now, why would Home Depot add a second store? Because they see population trends working in their favor. The same population trends of people that are buying hammers and screwdrivers are the population trends of people that are investing in real estate, are renting real estate and eventually buying your real estate from you when you want to liquidate. Get out there and read that. Find out, are they adding a wing to the hospital or are they firing 100 nurses from the hospital? What are the big macro trends that are happening in your local market? They can give you an idea of what things will be like in 5 and 10 years. What's the political climate in your community? Number 2, I would go to a website called Zillow.com, Zillow.com. Zillow is very good for one thing, in my opinion, and that is they've got a section there called Local Values. Click on Local Values. Pick any town, any county, any zip code you want in the country, and they will show you a chart. Now, you have to change the chart. This is very important. Change it from the Zillow estimator, which is their index, which is very cloudy and I don't think very useful. Change it to just plain old sold price. And then change it from 5 years, which is useless because all you see in a 5-year chart is the peak to now. So you see a downward trend. Change it to 10 years. And what you will see is a trend that all over the country and in virtually every market in the country, the graph looks similar. It starts off low. It creeps its way up all the way to 2006, 2007, 2008. And then it comes down. And it comes down roughly half of the total appreciation that it made for the first part of the curve. So picture it in your mind. It goes up for a while, and then it crests, and then it comes down, and now it's leveling off. And what you can learn about a market, zip code by zip code, is which ones are more volatile. Okay, which ones went up the highest and then came down the furthest. If you could find a market that came down and is now leveling off at higher than half of the appreciation during the boom, most of them are at about half. Some of them are below half. But if you see a market that is appreciating, that appreciated and then gave back less than other markets around, compare that zip code to the county it's in. Compare it to the state, compare it to the nation, and you'll be able to, by virtue of comparing, figure out which ones held their value better. And then all those intangibles, all those what's happening in the community, what's happening in business, what's happening in government, what's happening with taxes, all of that kind of is all melded into that one chart. And what you're looking at there is a chart of the real estate cycle, a 10-year cycle in that local market. So go to there, Zillow.com, do the research, pick a winner, and read the business journal, and you'll start to get a sense of what the future holds in that local market. This is Greg Rand. You're listening to Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC. When we come back, we're going to be talking to somebody who's done exactly that and is building wealth in real estate. Stay with us.